My life appeared very good on the outside. I was married. I had had a daughter, and my career was progressing rapidly. I was about to graduate with my bachelor's degree at the top of my class, and life was really good until I got a phone call. Little did I know when I got that phone call that that would bring my life to have greater meaning than I could have ever expected. My marriage very quickly came to an end as a result of that phone call. We were physically separated at that point by authorities, and one of the social workers that was brought in asked me if I belonged to a church, and I thought that was a really strange question to ask because I didn't know what going to church would possibly have to do with the information I was being given. And I said no. And she also made a comment or the statement that you're going to need to find a God to get through this. And again, I dismissed that because I didn't understand what she was saying had to do with what I was being told and how I could even come to a concept of a God after the things that I was hearing. I began a downward spiral with alcoholism. I had to find any way I could to numb myself. The company that I worked for put me on medical leave. The stress of my situation was causing my body to just react in different ways. And I saw many doctors as a result of this, but at one point I ended up in a doctor's office that I had never seen before. I had put off this appointment for weeks. Each time it was scheduled, I would call the office and say, I'm not going to make it in tomorrow, and I would reschedule. But I woke up this one morning and I felt like there was a presence there that was telling me that everything was going to be okay. And I ended up going to that appointment that day. I don't know why that day was any different than any other day that I didn't go. But I went, and my daughter was with me, and that doctor did something very different than any of the other doctors had done. They had prescribed things for anxiety and the different issues I was having, being unable to sleep, and this doctor did something very different. After he shed a few tears, looking through my file, he asked if we could pray. And up until that point, I had prayed, but only that God would take away the pain, reveal the truth to me. I was praying for the truth a lot, but I couldn't accept the truth. I felt like my prayers were not being answered, so I stopped praying. And we prayed, and we took a break, and I excused myself to go into the restroom in his building to gather myself. So I was crying at that point, and when I walked into the bathroom, there was this incredible light. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm going crazy. I had never seen anything like it. I didn't understand where it was coming from. I just knew that I felt absolute peace in that light, and again had the feeling that I had had that morning, that everything was going to be okay. My entire being had changed in that moment. The doctor prescribed some things, but they were very different than what I had been prescribed before. And I realized within a few weeks that I didn't need to take any of the medication. My entire life had changed. I just felt a presence, and from that point on, I never took another drink. I found something through prayer and this presence that came into my life that I just knew that my life was going to be different. It wasn't too long after that I met Tricia, and she invited me to come to her church, Glendale City Church, and I never left. I found a home for my daughter and I, something I had been searching for. And the people that I met at the church and starting to share. And when I was asked to share my story in a class within a small group of people who listened and were just there to love me and support me and didn't judge me in any way, I could be completely honest about how I was feeling and what I went through. And I didn't know how I was going to get through sharing that. But by pretending it didn't happen would also be denying that God has become the center of my life. I didn't have a Bible growing up. I was apprehensive being in church because I didn't know where any of the stories were in the Bible. I didn't know any of the stories in the Bible. But by learning little bits and pieces at a time, I started putting this whole picture together and realized that God had come into my life through some terrible, horrific events, but my life was forever changed because of it. And I'm a completely different person today because of it. I don't think about so much everything that I lost. I think about how much I've gained as a result and just want other people to know that they're not alone. There's people out there that you can talk to that won't judge you, that will love you,